everybody, welcome back. Jiu-Jitsu 2000 here today. I have a very fun, interesting video for you today, and the topic that I want to talk about is how to make an alcohol stove out of a soda can. So the alcohol stove that I want to make uses denatured alcohol. Now, some people have used isopropyl alcohol, and I try not to use that kind because it has more water in it than the denatured alcohol does. But on my bench here, I have a few items in no particular order that you're going to need for this project. A pair of scissors, some matches, 2 or 3 soda cans, depending on how accurate you are on your cutting, a little push pin. If you don't have any push pins, you can use a finish nail and a hammer. Some sort of pen. Sharpies work really good because what we're going to want to mark on is the can itself. A stapler and a utility knife. And in some cases you might need a hammer, but I doubt we'll need that today. Okay, the first thing I like to do in this process is I like to take my push pin, and I'm going to take one of the soda cans, and on the bottom you see this little ring around here. I like to put 4 little holes around the bottom of the can. Now it's important that you try to make these holes as straight as you can, and what I mean, I'll show you here in just a second what I mean by that. Try to measure the distance between the 4 holes so that they look nice and straight. Okay, once you get those, I like to put 4 more. Again, right in the center of all 4 of them. I'm wiggling the can because that helps. It kind of turns the push pin into a drill almost, and it kind of drills the holes a little bit. If the push pin is too hard for you to get into the can, you can use a finish nail and a light tap with the hammer. That works pretty good too. But the main thing is you want to be careful at this point not to crunch up the can. Okay, so you want to keep the can kind of strong. So I just like to kind of drill them in like that. So now we have 8 holes. Okay, now what I want to do now is around every hole I want to put one on each side of it. So I'm going to put 2 holes around each hole. I'll show you what that looks like here in a second. This process is going to take me a little bit of time to complete, so I'll come back when I have this done and I'll show you what it looks like. Notice I'm not hitting real hard with the hammer, I'm just tapping very mildly. So that's what it looks like. So we have approximately 24 holes in there. Okay, at this point we want to take our utility knife, and inside the edge of the cut of the can here, we want to kind of cut around this inside edge. Okay, not, you just want to kind of score it. Be careful not to dent up the can, and also be careful not to accidentally slip with the knife and cut yourself. So be very patient in this step and just score the outside edge. Don't do it too hard, be patient. It's going to take several revolutions around the inside of the can to get this center piece out, because that's what our objective is. We want to get that center piece out. Okay, so be very careful. Again, I can't stress it enough. Make sure your finger's out of the way so that if the knife slips, you're not going to cut yourself. And don't grip the can too hard. You don't want to dent it. So just light little scrapes all the way around, and just keep going, and you'll eventually wear out the aluminum, and it'll break through at one point. And when it breaks through, that's what we're waiting for. Once it breaks through, we're going to go ahead and take that center piece out. And I think I'm about to break through here. So you just got to be careful. Try not to score it too hard. It's just little bits of progress, and that's what we're going to do. Always we want to think about safety, so don't get too excited. Okay, now my blade just popped through right here. When that happens, sometimes, now not always, but sometimes once you bust through, you can tap inside, and sometimes that'll break. Whoops. Sometimes that'll break the inside out. You can start to see here where it's starting to break. There it is. I was able to pop it through. So now I'm going to reach in carefully and take this little centerpiece out. Just like so. So we have the piece that we took out, and we have our can. Okay, now I want to take my utility knife again, and I want to just go around the inside edge of the can here and just kind of remove any excessive bumps or anything that might be around that center. Okay, again, it doesn't have to be anything significant or anything like that. We just want to get that area clean so that it's clearer to the touch. We don't want any jagged areas on it. It doesn't have to be anything crazy, Again, be careful not to crunch up your can. Okay, so we have our holes, we've got the top out, and we've cleaned out this area. Okay, the next step, what I want to do is I want to take something such as this matchbox, and I want to take my Sharpie, and putting the edge down that we were working on, I want to put that edge down, and I want to take my Sharpie and just rest my Sharpie against something, and I want to spin the can around. Basically, I'm just marking a mark where I can cut the can. And I want to do this to both cans. The second can, you want to make that mark just slightly higher. So what I like to do is I like to take maybe my scissors or just something to raise the line just a little bit. Doesn't have to be much higher, just a little bit, like maybe a 1/16 of an inch or an 1/8 of an inch higher. Give or take a little bit. It doesn't have to be like substantially higher, just a little bit. because what we're going to end up doing is we're going to end up trimming it anyway, so it's not really that big of a deal. But we do want the lines. I'm trying to square these up so they show. Looks like they're about, I don't know, 1/4 of an inch maybe at the most. Okay, so the one that's still intact is the longer one. Okay, now what I want to do is I want to take my utility knife and the can that has the top out of it, and I want to insert my utility knife into the line that I've drawn. See that? Just want to kind of pop it through. Just like that. I gave it a little bump, and I got me a nice little incision in there. Okay, from here I'm going to insert my scissors into that little cut, and I'm just going to cut around the line. Try not to mess the can up too much. Take your time, be patient, but try to stay as close to the line as you can. If you are going to get off the line, make sure you get off in this section. You know, like I'm getting a little carried away. That's okay, because we can come back and kind of fix the can here in a second. I'll show you. Another thing I want to mention is be careful when you're dealing with this aluminum from these cans, because it's very sharp. Okay, so now I have my line cut around for the most part, and what I want to do is I want to go back with the scissors, and I'm just trimming, you know, just to make the edge nice and clean. And you notice I went above the line a little bit so that I can come back and trim. Okay, it doesn't have to be anything fancy, just something like that. Okay, now what I want to do is I want to make 4 vertical incisions all the way up. And it's going to be hard for you to see that, but I've basically cut all the way up to this rim. 1 on each side. Basically 4 incisions. 3. Let's do 1 more. On the 4 corners of it. Okay. Now we want to take this other can, this other section, and we want to kind of clean up the area around it. We want to get a nice clean area here and try to make it as straight as possible. Okay, we're pretty off pretty much there. Let's go a little more here. Take a look. Yeah, that's close enough. Now we want to rest that down, and using this part, the top, we want to rest it there. Take our Sharpie and just use this to make a line. Okay. Okay, so now we have a good little line on this piece. We're going to go through with our knife, make sure this edge is nice and clean. Just checking it to make sure the edge is good and straight for the most part. And I'm going to insert my knife, and I'm just going to kind of round the cut into the line here. Once I get on the line, I'm going to stay on the line as good as I can. This section needs to be fairly straight. If you have to get off the line at this point, make sure you get off the line below it. That's where all your jagged places will be, because we want to use the line as our edge. So if you got to get jagged, go below the line. Just like so. Okay, see that? I got off, but I was off below the line. So now we're going to take our scissors and we're going to cut right on the line. Get a nice straight cut. And then cut this section off. So we have basically this piece. Okay. Okay, at this point you want to check the height of the section that you cut in relation to the line on this can, and you want to make sure that they're pretty close to the same height. From here, I'm going to take this can, my utility knife, and this is going to be the bottom of the stove. So I want to cut, if I'm going to slip off the line, I need to slip off towards this area. Okay, so I'm basically going to insert my blade up into this area and then my scissors, and I'm going to try to cut on the line, or if there's any jaggedness, make sure it's on this section here. Oops, sorry. Didn't realize I was off camera there. So again, let me say that just so you can see. I'm going to try to stay on the line, and if I get off the line in any direction, it's not going to be up in here, it's going to be up in this section. So basically I'm cutting through, get all crazy. Okay, now I have this section. This is going to be the bottom. Now this is where we want to come onto the line real nice. Hope you can see that. You want to make this line as smooth as possible, as straight as you can. Okay. So that looks pretty good. Now again, we're going to set them together and check our heights, and they should be, if one of the two is going to be a little bit higher, you want this piece to be just a hair higher. Okay, now this is the part where it starts to get mildly tricky. You want to take this section and this section, and this ring, you want to create a ring that's the same diameter of that ring. So you want to kind of hold this against yourself or whatever you got to do, but you want this section, you're trying to create a ring that's going to be the same size diameter as this ring here. This point, this portion right here is pretty important to make sure that those rings are the same size. Okay, so whether you have to measure it or whether you have to push it, you know, together or whatever you got to do, you want to just make sure that they're about the same size in diameter. And once you get it where you think they're about the same size, just put a staple in it. Okay, and check. And the way I would recommend checking is to get inside and just lay it inside, because you want it to lay in that ring inside. And you'll know very quickly if it fits or if it's too big or too small. Like in our case, it's a little bit on the large side, so let me take a little bit out. I'm going to basically remove the staple and cinch this a little bit tighter. Get my little screwdriver, pull these staples out. I'm going to tighten it up just a little bit. This point, this portion of the soda can stove is kind of important. So I'm going to tighten it up about, I don't know, 1/16 of an inch maybe. Put another staple. And now let's check it again. We're going to set it inside. That looks pretty good. You want a good fit inside, and that looks real nice. So from here, I'm going to put another staple in to hold things together. And if there's any trimming or anything that needs to be done, like this little notch right here, we'll just kind of trim that off. Okay, so we want it nice and smooth all the way around. Now, what you need to do is on this section, you need to cut 3 little V's. And they don't have to be big, just 3 little V's. Don't get too crazy with them, just cut them small. And what these V's are going to be for is this is going to be channels where the alcohol is going to flow. I'll explain more here in a minute. So we're just cutting these 3 little sections out. There's one. See that? Holding my finger back there so you can have a contrast. That's what you want. You want 3 of those. And I guess I'm making these about about 1/4 of an inch. So I got those 3 little V's cut out of this section. Okay, now it's time to put everything together. This portion with the holes is going to be the top, and remember we made four different incisions. Okay, and that's to help the metal come together a little bit to slide in. So this is going to be the top, this is going to be the bottom obviously, and what we want is we want our little V's to go down into the bottom here, so they'll rest in that groove. See that? With the V's down. I don't know if you can see that. And what those V's are going to be used for is that's going to be where the alcohol is going to flow. So we're just kind of pushing down. You can see those little V's down there. Right there in the back. So now we want to take the top section and go inside, and that's why I cut these four little cuts. This will help things kind of fall into place a little bit better. Okay, so it'll kind of help stuff fit. So we're going to take the bottom and we're going to take the top, and the top is, again, it's going to go inside the bottom. Okay, so we're just kind of meshing it together. Okay, now what we want to do is, you see the wall inside that we made, we want that portion to come into this groove. So I'm just gently going to push with my thumbs. Don't push too hard. Okay, you just want it to come in contact with those grooves. Okay, don't push too crazy. Okay, so we have something like that. See, my cans held together real nice. I'm here. So now I'm going to take it over to my table, and if you have any kind of like little block of wood or anything like that, you might want to use it here with your hammer and just tap it gently, not hard. You don't want to hit it hard or you'll split the aluminum. Just a very light tap. In fact, you could even use your hammer directly on it. You just want it very lightly tapped down in there. You don't want to do it too hard, like I said, because you could hurt these tin cans. They're very brittle, they're very soft. Okay, now from this point you want to take, you can tell that this lower cup area is a lot longer than the bottom. So using your knife, or excuse me, your scissors, you want to kind of rest your bottom blade of your scissors kind of in against the can in the bottom. You know, I'm kind of resting my blade there. Hope you can see that. And I'm using that bottom can as a guide to kind of just remove the material off of the side of it. Hope you can see that. It's really hard to try to get you a good angle because I'm standing all funny. Okay, so you want to try to cut that section. Whoops, shouldn't have done that. Anyway, that's what you want. Something like that. Except don't rip it off or you'll do what I did there. So again, I'm going to push down, make sure it's solid. Let me do a little. If you have a little bit overhanging, like I do, see I got just a little bit, we're going to fold that up over the edge. We're just going to push with our fingers. Just kind of fold that up over. Just ever so slightly, nothing crazy. So that I have it kind of rolled up over the top. And from there, we're pretty much done. Okay, now what I'm going to do is I'm going to fire it up. So I'm going to get my matches, move all my stuff out of the way. I'm going to take some of this denatured alcohol and I'm going to pour it in here. A stove about this tall will probably burn for about 20 minutes. So I'm just filling it. It's about 3/4 of the way full. Close my alcohol container, set it aside. Now be careful, because if you spilled any alcohol on your bench or anything like that, you want to make sure that you clean that up and let it dry before you light this stove. Okay, I got a little piece of flashing or little piece of aluminum. I'm just going to set it down and set my stove on that. I'm going to go ahead and light my stove. And be careful, because when you first light these, the flame will be invisible. You won't hardly see it, but it will be lit. So be careful. And another thing I want to mention is the only way to put this stove out, see, I can feel it. The only way to put this stove out is to smother it. So if you have like a pan or something, you can set over it to make it lose oxygen. Now I'm going to go ahead and turn these lights off so that you can see the flame. So here goes the lights. Okay, now there's our stove, and it's going to take a few minutes of it burning to warm up, because what we want to do is we want the alcohol that's between the outer wall and the inner wall that we made, we want the alcohol to basically burn in that section, and once that starts to happen, that's where we'll get this really beautiful flame. Let me go kill this other light real quick. How's that look? Yeah, that looks good. So there's our stove. And like I said, it takes a few minutes for it to get up to speed. And it's a pretty good flame. You can blow on it. It's hard to put it out. Be careful if you're out using this in the camping, because if you knock it over, it's not going to be good. So once this aluminum gets hot, that's when we'll start getting the best looking flames. And they'll start coming out of all these holes. I'm blowing on it slightly to try to speed up that process. This is like a lot of backpacking stoves. In fact, I forget what they call that. Priming your stove, I think. That's all we're doing here, is we're priming this stove. We're just trying to heat the aluminum up. So all that crunching sound that you hear, that's probably because this is the first time the stove's burnt and there might have been some soda or something stuck inside and it's probably burning that off. But that's your basic alcohol backpacking stove made from a soda can. I'm going to take this camera on hand here and show you a little closer view of what it looks like. They put out a really nice flame. You can see where the flame kind of comes out of the holes that we've put in there. They're excellent for backpacking. You know, they're very light and they boil a quart of, what is it, a quart of water in about 15 minutes or something like that. And that's a lot of water to boil. They work really good, and the cool thing about them is you can make them different heights depending on how much fuel you want them to hold. And what that would be like how long you want them to burn. So it's a fun project. And the sound, like I said, the sound that you hear of it burning, that sound is normally not there. There must be some corn syrup, you know, that high fructose corn syrup or something from the soda in there burning off. So again, I want to tell you guys thanks for watching my channel. I appreciate the support. Feel free to leave a comment. Feel free to subscribe. Feel free to give me a thumbs up. Thanks again, guys and ladies. Have a beautiful day. And one more thing, when you're out there playing with these stoves, be careful. You don't want to knock them over. That alcohol will get on things and it'll take off, so be careful. Best thing to do with these is to just let them burn out, or smother them with something safe like a pan. If you're out backpacking, you can throw some dirt on them or something. Anyway, have a good day, everybody. Bye bye now. Okay, everybody, just very quickly before I go, I have a pan in my hand. It's an old beat up old pan, and I'm just going to show you how to kill these stoves if you need to. So set it over and let it sit for a few minutes. And what it'll do is it'll take the oxygen out, and when you go to peek to check to make sure it's out, just lift it very slowly. And that's how you kill the stove. Thanks again, everybody. Bye bye now.